Welcome to the Get Fit Guys, quick and dirty tips to slim down and shape up. My name is Ben Greenfield. I'm the Get Fit Guy. In today's episode, you're going to learn 2 potent ways to kill fat cells and lose fat fast. Think about the last piece of fat loss advice you received. Let me guess, it went something like this: move more, eat less, try this pill, read this diet book. And sure, fat loss and the attainment of a sexy, lean body begins with getting off your butt, moving more, working out, and slowly lowering the donut from your gaping maw. But when it comes to losing fat fast, staying shredded, ripped, and toned year-round, and getting to the body weight you want without 2-a-day workouts and being hungry all the time, there are potent strategies that fly under the radar, strategies that go beyond fat loss. For example, take the flawed concept that no matter what, you'll always be stuck with the number of fat cells you've built earlier in your life. This commonly accepted dogma in the fitness and diet industry dictates that if you've ever had excess weight or bits of undesirable adipose tissue on your waist, hips, and butt, then the fat cells in those areas will never actually disappear, but they'll instead just shrink. Those fat cells will then hide, waiting in the wings for the next time you mess up and eat a few too many bites of steak or an extra scoop of ice cream, at which point those food calories are doomed to wind up getting shoved directly into the eagerly waiting fat cells, resulting in a constant uphill battle against the bulge. But this simply isn't true. I realized this when I interviewed Dr. Kate Shanahan on my podcast at bengreenfieldfitness.com, and she explained that if you banish just one particular notorious biological variable that is present in most people eating a standard Western diet, you can actually induce fat cells to not only die, but to get transformed into other physiologically useful tissues, such as muscle cells, stem cells, and neural cells. So what is that variable? It's not excess calories. It's not chocolate. It's not, to the chagrin of diet book authors worldwide, gluten. It's not a low-carb, high-fat, or a high-carb, low-fat diet. It's inflammation. That's right, inflammation, particularly from exposure to a toxin-laden environment, consumption of heated and rancid vegetable oils, and a stressful lifestyle with not enough sleep can make fat cells resistant to dying and resistant to getting converted into other tissues, particularly because inflammation creates excess insulin, the hormone responsible for shoveling calories into fat tissue. So to achieve lasting fat loss, the first solution is simple: shut down inflammation. And my fellow Quick and Dirty Tips podcaster, the Nutrition Diva, has in the past delved into some of her most potent dietary strategies to decrease inflammation. So be sure to check out all her episodes on the topic, and you can do that by going to the show notes for this episode. Just go to quickanddirtytips.com and look for this episode, episode 339. So how else can you lower inflammation and lower insulin and kill or convert fat cells? Well, avoid any oils exposed to high amounts of heat, pressure, or other forms of oxidation. We're talking vegetable oils like canola, sunflower, safflower, and most packaged foods and, quote, healthy, unquote, trail mixes coated in oil and nut butters and off-the-shelf snacks. As a matter of fact, donuts, potato chips, and French fries are the 3 most notorious inflammation-producing food culprits. Pay attention to the results from a study that was done back in 2010, which actually rated inflammation foods and predicts food inflammatory responses in human subjects. You can go check that one out at inflammationfactor.com. And for example, suggestions from that website include limiting things like coffee, alcohol, high fructose corn syrup, wheat, and instead choosing foods like kale, raw seeds and nuts, coconut, and avocado. During sleep stages, particularly between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. deep sleep, your body's core temperature drops, nervous system repair and recovery takes place, and cellular inflammation gets cleaned up. So if you struggle through the day with appetite cravings and resistance to weight loss, inflammation related to poor sleep can be to blame. You also need to identify exposure to processed and refined foods, chemical additives, antibiotics, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, herbicides, chlorinated water, artificial sweeteners, and anything else unnatural enough to churn up inflammation. I have a great article called How to Detox Your Home. And if you go to quickanddirtytips.com and look for this episode, episode 339, I will fill you in on exactly what that is. So, what are some other potent ways to kill fat cells? Well, one would be hot-cold contrast showers. That's right, just 5 minutes of 10 seconds of warm water to 20 seconds of cold water is something that former NASA materials engineer Ray Cronise taught me as a potent fat loss method to burn plenty of fat off the body. Considering you run a whole marathon and only burn 1/2 to 3/4 pounds of fat, that's pretty important information. Another information that you should know about is that a high-fat, low-carb diet can increase fat oxidation from an average of 1.0 grams per minute to over 1.7 grams per minute in many individuals, especially athletes. Next up, the fat burning zone can be a myth, and recent research reveals that exercisers exercising at over 85% of their maximum intensity still experience fat oxidation contribution at nearly a third of their total energy expenditure. You can also move throughout the day. Include one short aerobic workout as many mornings as possible a week, preferably in an overnight fasted state. Avoid the commonly recommended practice to frequently snack or graze all day long. Save your carbohydrate intake for the end of the day. Keep your metabolism elevated by exposing your body to frequent fluctuations in cold and hot temperatures. And try to include high-intensity interval training, weight training, and endurance training at least once a week. Now, I have one other potent fat loss technique that I'm going to give you. And I'm going to put that over in the show notes at quickanddirtytips.com for this episode 339. So definitely go check that one out. It's a 1, 2, 3 combo that melts fat off the body like crazy. Now, if you're implementing all these strategies and nothing seems to be working, you may want to look into blood, urine, stool, and saliva testing to elucidate why your body might be resistant to fat loss. Now, my two top tests for that would be a Dutch test, which is a dried urine test for hormones, and a comprehensive blood test that will look at things like micronutrient deficiencies and thyroid issues that can cause resistance to fat loss. And if you want more, I also have 12 very effective, unconventional ways to burn fat in a previous Get Fit Guy episode. I'll link to that in the show notes as well. Over at quickanddirtytips.com, look for this episode number 339. Now, for example, you could start right here to begin burning fat more quickly. You could start each day before eating with 10 to 30 minutes of light activity like yoga, walking the dog, or doing yard chores. Take at least one cold shower each day. Visit the sauna at least once per week. Avoid non-nutrient-dense carbohydrates, and be as active as possible all day long. Then you can put the icing on the cake by alternating between one day of high-intensity cardio and one day of weight training. That's a simple place to start. Now, if you have more questions about everything I've talked about in today's show, or you want to join the conversation, head over to facebook.com/getfitguy. That's facebook.com/getfitguy. And if you join the conversation over there, I'll be happy to help you out. And don't forget to subscribe to the Get Fit Guy podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. And if you have questions, comments, or more feedback, again, head over to facebook.com/getfitguy. And until next time, I'm Ben Greenfield, the Get Fit Guy, asking you, what are you waiting for? Go get fit.